Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Innovation Credit Union's annual meeting. My name is Russ Siemens. I'm the president of the board of directors at Innovation Credit Union and the meeting chair for this evening. I'd like to thank everyone who's taken the time to join our annual meeting and officially call the meeting to order. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that our members have a special relationship with our Indigenous peoples. We recognize that Innovation Credit Union has advice centers located on Treaties 4, 6, and 10 land, and also acknowledge we have members who reside on all treaty lands across the nation. These lands are the traditional home to a diverse range of Indigenous peoples and homeland of the Métis. Further, I'd like to make mention of the value that Innovation Credit Union places in the diversity of people, backgrounds, and thought. Our meeting this evening will respect and encourage diversity. And just before we begin with the formal part of the meeting, this has been a special year for our staff. And we just want to, as members, take a moment just to thank our staff for the way that you have interacted with us as members, the way that you have kept us safe when we walked into our branches, the way you accommodated us, even from behind your masks. We could see that you were smiling. We could tell from your eyes, and we appreciate that. Some of us, you've helped us move to online banking, something that we never thought that we'd ever have to do or ever want to do or ever need to do, and you helped us with that. You certainly have worked above and beyond any job description that the board or that membership could ever expect of the staff. And so thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your work during this past year. So now we'd like to begin with the business portion of our meeting. We're excited to share some of the highlights of the year 2021 and share some of the exciting plans that we have for 2022 and beyond, including the progress we are making on becoming the first federal credit union headquartered here in Saskatchewan. So let's get started. We published the notice of annual meeting in the Northern Pride, the News Optimist, the Prairie Post, the Southwest Booster, the Gravelbourg Tribune, and the Spiritwood Herald. As well, notice was posted on Innovation's Credit Union's website, and copies of the notices are available upon request if anyone would like to review them. So I'd like to now introduce our head table for this evening. We have Dan Johnson, our Chief Executive Officer, Sheldon Heff, the Chief Finance Officer, Ian MacArthur, our Chief People and Governance Officer, and Emma DeWall, our Governance Specialist, who will be our recording officer for tonight. We will also be calling upon other directors to make specific presentations on behalf of committees of the board. And I would like to introduce the 2021 Innovation Credit Union Board of Directors. Michelle Wild, First Vice President, Mike Davis, Second Vice President, Joan Baer, Liam Chufu, Megan Cockrell, Ian Hamilton, Gord Lightfoot, Bruce Sack, Dana Whitney, Karen Yurko, and Brian Zanuck. Ian MacArthur will act as our parliamentarian for tonight. We know that we have a number of guests joining our meeting this evening from neighboring credit unions, our regulators, and our system partners, and we thank you for joining us tonight. We value our relationship with you. And so I'll now invite Ian MacArthur, the Chief People and Governance Officer, to provide the privileges of the meeting and confirmation of quorum. Ian?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In order to effectively manage the online meeting and meet the requirements of an official meeting, we're asking for those addressing the meeting to please note the following. In order to minimize background noise, we have muted everyone's lines. You are able, if you are joining online, able to unmute your line to address the audience. If you have joined via phone, that is a dial-in phone, you can hit *6 to unmute. When moving or seconding a motion, please indicate a desire to do so in the chat. We will take the first names that appears. Voting will occur through a voting prompt that will appear on your screen. We would ask that only members of Innovation Credit Union cast their vote, except in this one instance. In order to check the voting that was working and everyone is familiar with what it'll look like, we'd like to now test by asking Dan to put the following in the chat. There is now a question on there. Are you a member of Innovation Credit Union? So you can click yes or no and submit. And the responses will show up. So we have, and you can see right in the chat, the numbers will show up. So we, as you'll see, we are able to, we'll be utilizing the chat function throughout the meeting. This function can be accessed through the speaking balloon at the top of the screen. A separate panel will appear to which you can write your comment or ask your question. There'll be a couple opportunities during the meeting for members to address the meeting. One will be during the question period and a second during the other business portion of the event agenda. If you do wish to address the meeting, please use the hands up function or simply make a note in the chat. We are able to conduct an audit of the votes through the membership list and through the function if it is required to do so. So we encourage all members who are addressing the meeting this evening to please turn on their video feed so we're able to see you and have a good opportunity to interact. And finally, the agenda, minutes of the last annual meeting and annual reports were all available off the website as well as in the link that was sent to you prior to the meeting. So, Mr. Chair, I can confirm this evening that we do have we have 84 members in attendance, or 84 individuals in attendance. By the number of the vote, we have at least 50 members. Therefore, we do have a quorum.
Great, thanks, Ian. And so we'll move to the approval of the agenda. And the agenda for tonight's meeting is provided for you on the screen. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented. So would there be a mover?
Wendy Lockman moves, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
Brian Zanuck.
Thanks. And is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, then I'll move to a vote. And so we'll present the voting question for the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, that is carried.
Thank you. So I declare it carried. The approval of the minutes of the last AGM, the 2021 AGM minutes were available to download and view when you registered for the meeting. I would look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes as circulated. Can I have a mover, please?
Tim Sletton.
Thank you. Could I get a seconder, please?
Second by Dixie Green.
Thank you. Any discussion? Then we will vote for the approval of the minutes of the 2021 AGM minutes. I'll just wait for those results. And that is carried. Thank you very much. So we'll now move to the 2021 reports. I'll present the president's report, and Dan will present the report on operations along with other management staff. You can ask about any of the reports after the presentations are complete. I'll then ask for a motion to approve all reports at one time. So I'll begin by presenting the president's report on behalf of the board of directors. So I know many of you would have hoped that we could start the president's message as the pandemic is finally over, but it's still a part of our daily lives, and it looks like it will remain a part of our lives into the future. I will, however, look back on 2021 as a year of not only coping and adjusting, but also of one of planning for an exciting future. Knowing we were working to improve your financial lives truly boosted our morale, and for that we thank you. You have probably now discovered our new credit union website, our online banking platform, and our mobile banking app. The digital updates were made based on your feedback, a true testament as to how much your opinions and financial needs matter to us. I'm so incredibly proud of our innovation staff team the countless hours dedicated to this project in the form of testing, design, and user experience. It's beyond inspiring. Thank you for your patience as members as the team sorted through bugs and for the kind words you've shared about your new banking experience. We look forward to continued improvements and adding more exciting features for years to come. So the countdown is on for innovation becoming a federally regulated credit union. We hope to attain approval by the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, or referred to as OSFI, in 2022. More work and preparation for this monumental event took place this past year. And thanks again to the innovation team on their tremendous efforts on making this growth opportunity possible. In the midst of all of our exciting future plans and projects, at least one thing remained constant: your support of your credit union. Because of your business, we were able to distribute $1.9 million in member rewards back to you. We were also able to support our communities, investing $500,000 in the form of scholarships, grants, and sponsorships. Because of this community support, we were honored to once again be named as Imagine Canada's Caring Company in 2021. Our board, management, and staff thank you for your continued support. I have the privilege of working alongside such a talented, enthusiastic leadership team. A sincere thank you to my fellow board members for their vision and passion for Innovation Credit Union and its members. Every board member has a 3-year development plan, attends a minimum of 2 training and development days each year, along with additional courses that build our governance skill set. You can trust this team always has your best interests in mind. Our projects and planning in 2021 helped us further deliver on our purpose to simplify banking for you, to help reach your financial goals, and to reinvest in your communities. Responsible banking is simply the right thing to do, and we're excited to look for additional ways to put that purpose into action. So thank you for another tremendous year, and it's a pleasure to represent you. And so I now welcome CEO Dan Johnson and CFO Sheldon Hess to address the meeting and provide further details on our 2021 year. Dan?
Well, thank you very much, Russ. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address our membership and our key stakeholders and partners. And thank you very much for dialing in this evening. So what I typically like to do is take a little walk through the organization and how things went in 2021 or the prior year. At Innovation, we use the balanced scorecard to do that. I think it's a really good framework or tool for us because it allows us to focus on all of the important things: our people, our membership, your credit union, and also, of course, our bottom line and making sure that we have an appropriate level of risk. So we use the balanced scorecard on an annual basis. So I want to spend a little bit of time just kind of walking through 2021 and relate it back to our balanced scorecard. So this is our corporate scorecard, and as you can see, there's a number of measures that we use at the organization to be able to measure success and to move the organization forward. From a color perspective, red is bad, green is good, and blue is exceptional. And so you can see we have a mix in our balanced scorecard this year. From a financial perspective, we did extremely well, and Sheldon's going to talk about that in a little bit relative to our budget. From a member perspective, our satisfaction scores, as we measure through Net Promoter Score, did really well throughout the year. We're just shy of what we wanted to have as far as membership growth. So you can see that as status yellow. Russ mentioned federal continuance. So that's a long journey, and we did, again, a number of initiatives and a bunch of work in 2021. And we hope to see that conclude here in 2022. We're darn close with respect to the items and the things that we have to close off to become Saskatchewan's first federally regulated credit union. A couple areas that we continue to focus on, and it's around people, our number one asset. There's scores there that we're not happy with. We want to get that to a better spot. And so we're continually working with all of the different things that can impact things like engagement, enabling work processes and infrastructure. So there's some items there that we're paying attention to. We also want to make sure that we're operating efficiently as we, are entrusted by our owners and our members to move the organization forward and be as efficient as possible. So those are some of the things that we measure in that part of the scorecard. Quality is important to us in all aspects in our organization. So that's something as well that we're continually working and focusing on. And in 2021 is something that was important. And as we move into 2022, again, we're going to continue on that as well. And then the bottom row talks about our overall enterprise risk management score. As you can see, it's in that green area. So I'll talk about that a little bit as I continue to go further through some of the parts of our balanced scorecard. So let's start in the people category. I think what happens is that you get to know various people within innovation, maybe at your local advice center or someone you talk with on the phone. But I just wanted to spend some time just talking about our organization, sharing some things that you may or may not know about innovation. We have 433 employees, most of them employed here in Saskatchewan, but we do have across Canada other employees that are a part of the team. And again, with the technology that we have today, it really allows us to have a cohesive workforce to be able to provide the services and the products that you're looking for. In 2021, we had 15 summer students. Again, it's a stat that we purposely put in this presentation. We're very proud of that. We believe we have a lot of great young leaders out there. And in 2022, I think we've even increased that number. So, very happy to be able to support the youth in our communities. Ian talked about, earlier today, we were talking about the development that we have in our organization. And again, it's something that we're very proud of. We think it's very important to develop our people. And so we invest substantially into the development of our team members so that we can serve you, our members. And we also have another index that we look at, which is our overall development index. So most of us participated in some form of professional development in 2021. Yeah, the other thing that we measure in our organization are things around diversity. And here's a couple of key statistics that I think are important to share. And if you look at the one on the left around female leadership, over 63% of the leaders in our organization are female. Also some really good ratios from a board perspective. So your governance is well represented and diverse. And that's important so we can get different conversations happening in meetings in various parts of the organization. And as you can see, we've been working really diligently to try and make sure that we have a strong workforce, but also one that's diverse. And as you can see over the last few years that we've been very successful and happy with the ability to bring on more diverse workforce into the organization. So a couple of key statistics that I think are important to share that demonstrates the profile of your credit union. The other thing that I think that, and I know Russ mentioned the recognition that we achieved from an independent party around being certified as a caring company. The one that I pay special note to on an annual basis, because we'll talk about it in a little bit. Russ already mentioned it. As an organization, we support the community, but we also have a number of our staff that support the community through volunteerism. And I know it's been more difficult over the last few years, but we usually have a really good roster of hours devoted to the communities. And also out of our staff's own pockets, we've donated over $20,000 to charities as well. So some substantial numbers that I wanted to share. So let's move into another part of the balanced scorecard, which is the business part. And in this part, and you probably heard about this in other general meetings that we've had, but we talk a lot about digitalization in our organization. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that. And just to kind of share a couple things. One is that consumer behavior is changing, and a lot of the services that we provide needed to be offered in different ways, whether you want to come into our advice centers or deal with us over the phone, video, on your phone. And we partnered with some substantial partners. So Microsoft, Fiserv, Veripark are partners of ours that have really allowed us to set the stage for a real strong digital roadmap going forward. It allows us to modernize our operations so that we can provide a more efficient level of service and live up to that purpose, that whole notion of simplifying your lives when it comes to banking. So we partnered with some great partners, substantial partners. And when you look at some of the things we've already started to produce, in 2021, we adopted what we call the backbone of our technology, which is the member relationship management system. And that was a key component of our roadmap, which we launched in 2021. All of you on the call would have started to probably experience some of the other additional build or add-ons to that core backbone. As an example, our mobile app, online, and our website. Some really important modernization of various channels that our membership uses, and also provides enhanced security when it comes to doing things like banking. So we're pretty excited about our journey. It's a 3-year journey to get to where we want to, and we started in 2021. Late in the fall, we launched our relationship management system, and then early in 2022, we launched online and mobile. So we're starting to see a lot of benefit from that investment. And it's important because when you look at the data and the research that's out there, there's a lot of need for us to make sure that we're positioned not only for today, but for future generations. And when we look at the technology that we're investing in, that gives us a really strong footing to be able to ensure that going forward, we have the ability to ensure that our current membership is well served, and also the membership of the future. And one of the things that that we want to remind the audience and remind our membership is that our mandate at Innovation is to ensure that we are building channels so that you can bank with us no matter what channel you choose. It could be all of them, or it could be just our advice centers as an example. So we talk a lot about the research, but when you look at our membership activity, and that's what you see on the screen right now, we're starting to see a lot of that activity right now. So if you look at the top left around e-transfers, or over on the right, the remote deposit capture activity, even ATM usage is down to the point where over 86% of our interactions with our membership are now done digitally. So it's happening in the industry, it's happening in other industries, but it's also happening right here at home at Innovation. So we want to make sure we're well positioned for that going forward. And I already mentioned this, but again, I think it's important to remind our owners, our members, in that we want to make sure that we build the channels that you want to bank in. And I know we have a lot of dialogue and discussion around digital, but we also have a lot of advice centers that we have currently that we want to ensure that you leverage if that is your channel of choice. And further, the technology that we've invested in will help us do a better job in all of the channels, whether that's in the advice centers or on the phone or when you phone in. And again, it's a mandate, it's a guarantee, and it's our overall strategy to ensure that as we move forward, this investment benefits all of our members, not just a few. The other part of this category, the balanced scorecard, is federalization. And Russ mentioned it earlier, but again, it's a longer term journey. And we knew that going into this. And what I'm happy about is that we started this a number of years ago. And becoming a federal credit union was a pretty amazing time for us. We had over 29,000 conversations with our members. We had 17,000 members come out to vote to either tell us we should go federal or not. And when you think about that, it really turned into a conversation about the future of your credit union. And oftentimes we talk about that direction that we were provided by our membership to move forward. But remember, becoming a federal credit union isn't a strategy. What it does, it provides us with more flexibility. It provides us with more flexibility to deal with those disruptors that are disrupting our industry. Things like massive competition, rapid change in consumer behavior, and technology being that third disruptor that's kind of a catalyst to the first two. So our industry is being disrupted, so is our organization, and our digital roadmap combined with our flexibility of being a federal credit union is so important. I'm so glad we started a number of years ago, because these things take time. And again, just maybe one last point. Our goal to become a federal credit union isn't so that we step away from those who made us successful. We actually believe it allows us to further entrench the things that have made us successful and further aligned to the expectations of those who built our credit union. It just gives us more flexibility to continue to grow and evolve as an organization. And so we thank you for that support and direction. So let's move into another category of the scorecard and talk about growth, which is really around membership. And we have over 58,000 members. One of the items I wanted to showcase in 2021 is around the growth that we've experienced in our wealth business. And again, just a huge thanks to that team and also our membership for supporting not only our credit union, but also the wealth side of our credit union. So we've seen some substantial growth in that area. And it's one of those items I just wanted to showcase as we move through this part of the scorecard. And really, there's kind of 3 slides in this area. And that really hovers around what we call save, earn, and give. And I want to spend a bit of time on this because I think it's a key differentiator. It's a key element to our organization. We've worked really hard to be able to offer this. So the save part of that conversation is around the fact that we have an account that has no service charges, free unlimited service charge or transactions, e-transfers. And so why we think that's important is because in today's world, I think a lot of consumers expect this, not only from their bank or their financial institution, but even in other industries. And so we thought that this is an important consideration. We're one of the first in Saskatchewan with a few other credit unions to be able to do this. And it allows us to have kind of that real-time benefit so that every month you're seeing the benefit of dealing with innovation. And so we have over 34,000 of our members who are currently experiencing free. Pretty exciting for us. Russ already mentioned this as well, but what we also enjoy on a quarterly basis is making a decision around distributing profits back to our members, back to our owners. In 2021, we distributed almost $2 million back to our members in the form of dividends and cash. And so again, another thing that we've consistently done year over year, even in the times where things were quite interesting through things like the pandemic that we've experienced in the last couple of years. And then the third component of that save, earn, give is give. And again, Russ mentioned this as well. And very substantial, consistent donations that we have in our organization. What we've actually done is hard-coded a scenario where 2 to 4% of our pre-tax profits goes back to our communities. And again, so as we grow as an organization, as we grow as a credit union, 2 to 4% of a larger organization means more going back to our members, but also our communities. And not only that, when you combine that with things around the $50,000 in scholarships that we provided, and you talk about our legacy funds, which were around $65,000 in 2021, it adds up to very substantial dollars and a figure that we're very proud of. And you can see in the slide here, one that we've consistently done year in and year out, even when there is interesting times in the economy, we've been able to ensure that we're still giving back to our communities. And so in aggregate, if you look at starting back in 2007, you can see that these initiatives, this alignment to those cooperative principles really adds up to something very substantial. So since 2007, we've paid back over $35 million in patronage to our members. And then from a give perspective, over $7 million back to our community. So something we're very, very proud of and can only be done with the support of our teams and our membership. And when you do things like that, when you provide things like free and you provide excellent service and you give back to your communities and owners, your support or your satisfaction can go up. And that we've seen that in our organization. We are very proud of our overall consumer net promoter score. And as you can see here, some really solid numbers. And when we compare that to other parts of our industry, again, we're very proud of the success that we're seeing. And again, thanks to you, our membership, for your support in business. One last category I'm going to talk to, and I'm going to turn it over to Sheldon, and he can talk to you about the last part of our balanced scorecard, which is the numbers and the finance side of things. But I just want to talk a little bit about risk. And, we spend a fair bit of time understanding the risk that we take on in your credit union. It's a very important component of our organization. And we really have 7 categories of risk that we pay attention to. And it's something that is a part of each and every one of our decisions and our sessions, right from the governance down through the organization. And in the next slide, just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that are percolating these days, things that we're talking about that may or may not impact your credit union. Of course, everyone's talking about inflation and rising rates. What does that mean to the organization, the credit union? What does that mean to our members? There's a lot of market uncertainty out there. We've been talking about this for a long time, but there seems to be more and more evidence mounting that there could be housing corrections. So what does that mean for our membership? What does that mean for our organization? These are the risk components that we're talking about. Supply chain impacts on all of our members, whether you're a consumer, commercial, especially our agriculture members. Again, lots of uncertainty out there. And of course, cybersecurity is something that we pay special attention to, especially as you saw earlier, with over 83% of our interactions with our members in that digital space. We want to make sure that we have a solid, secure environment for you to bank in, which is, again, one of the reasons why we're upgrading our technology in our organization. And this one last slide just gives you an indication of all of the support that our members have provided and all of the work that our team does to effectively operate the credit union results in a real solid capital base. So you can see here that over the years, we've grown the organization, including the capital base. And really why I'm including this in the risk areas, because that's one of those first lines of defense. If there is an event, an economic event or a drought or something that impacts the organization, we have a very, very solid capital base to weather the storm. And the chart on the right gives a good indication of regulatory minimums, and we're far north of that, but also our own internal standards. And again, we like to remain, north of those standards as well. So again, we could only get to this spot with the support of our membership, and we just want to thank both the team members and also the membership for all of your continued support to continue we help Innovation become a very solid organization to serve you and your communities. So that finishes my part of the agenda, and I just want to now turn it over to Sheldon Hess, our Chief Financial Officer, and he'll spend some time talking about the last part of our balanced scorecard in the finance area.
Great, thanks, Dan. So if you want to start the slides for me. So the first slide talks about our asset growth overall. And again, before I start, I just want to say thank you. And again, as always, it's really an honor to present a very brief summary of the financial results of our credit union. I'd encourage everyone to review the consolidated financial statements along with the accompanying management discussion and analysis as contained within the 2021 annual report. These documents provide the detailed results of our 2021 fiscal period. So the next slide, Dan, is shown on this slide. Total assets held on our balance sheet ended 2021 at a level of $3,012 million. And the total assets held on the balance sheet grew by 3.4 million or 0.11% during the 2021 fiscal year. This level of growth was strategic and by design, as the overall structure of the assets held on the balance sheet was an important focus for 2021. The balance sheet predominantly consists of loans. As at the end of 2021, just over 74.8% of our asset base was held in loans made to members and non-members. This was an increase from the prior year-end figure of 67.3%. This shift in the structure of the balance sheet was an excellent outcome for the year, as interest revenue sourced from the loan portfolio generates the vast majority of the total gross revenue of the credit union. The next slide goes into a little more detail of our loan growth. And overall, the total loan portfolio grew by $228.4 million, or 11.3% in 2021. These aggregate results were excellent for the credit union as we strategically targeted shifting the mix of our balance sheet in 2021 by redeploying excess liquidity into higher yielding loan assets. A softening of loan demand from within the membership was offset by increased sourcing of loans from our various third-party relationships. We continue to focus on sourcing business opportunities from the membership, with 80.2% of the total loan portfolio being sourced from the membership, as well as via our involvement in Q Dealer Finance. From a loan mix perspective, loan activities throughout 2021 resulted in an increase in the proportionate share of loans held in the consumer and commercial category, while the proportionate share of loans held in the agricultural category decreased from the prior year. In the next slide, we'll talk about deposit growth. So deposits held on the balance sheet are the primary source of funding for the credit union. The total deposit portfolio grew by 45.8 million, or 1.8% in 2021. Deposits are sourced from Innovation's membership as well as from third-party relationships outside the membership. The total deposit portfolio sourced from Innovation's membership grew by $125.5 million, or 5.3% in 2021. Innovation's strong liquidity position and strategic intention to shift the structure of the balance sheet provided an opportunity to reduce the deposits sourced from our various third-party relationships. 95.6% of the credit union's deposit portfolio was sourced from the membership as at the end of 2021. Next slide, we turn to profitability. And so from a profitability perspective, Innovation's revenue stream is broken down by revenue sourced from financial intermediation or via sourcing of funding, which in our case, majority is deposits, and the generation of loans, as well as from revenues generated from other income sources, such as our wealth management business unit, service charges, and fees tied to various activities. 85.5 million in total net revenues were recognized in 2021, which represents a small decrease of 1.3% or 1.1 million from the prior year results. Year-over-year increases in net interest income were offset by year-over-year declines in revenues classified in the other income category. Looking at operating expenses on this slide, so total operating expenses increased by a modest 656,000, which represents an increase of 1.0% in 2021. Prudent management of operating expenses continues to be very important to your credit union. Next slide refers to the provision for credit losses. And the provision for credit losses includes both realized losses or recoveries on loans, which are no longer considered collectible, and the expected shortfall in cash flows on individual loans and portfolio of loans, where there is evidence of credit impairment. The provision for credit losses represents management's best estimate of loss formations during the year after carefully assessing the overall portfolio and individually reviewing impaired loans. The amount of provision may vary year to year based on impaired loan balances, estimates of the credit losses on those loans, and economic conditions. As you'll see, total provisions for credit losses decreased by $4.5 million, or 37.8%, in 2021 when compared to the prior year. Next slide. Innovation continues to be a very strong, vibrant financial cooperative with the cooperative principles at the core of the organization. Innovation continues to be committed and driven by the cooperative principle of economic participation. Innovation's members share in the success of their credit union. Your board of directors authorizes member distributions on a quarterly basis, which are targeted at 15% of pre-tax income. Total distributions to members in 2021 were just over $1.9 million, which was an increase of $268,000, or 16.3%, when compared to the prior year. And as Dan mentioned, over the past 15 years, Innovation has distributed roughly $35.8 million back to the membership of the organization. From a bottom line perspective, 2021 net income after tax of $10.8 million represents a strong rebound when compared to the 2020 results of $4.5 million, which excludes the one-time net of tax gain on sale of the insurance subsidiaries. A key measure of profitability used by Innovation is return on equity. Return on equity improved in 2021 to 4.14%. That's an increase from the adjusted result in 2020 of 1.84. So while this positive year-over-year trend continues, we continue to work towards returning to an appropriate level of profitability as articulated within Innovation's risk appetite statement. The efficiency ratio on this slide simply measures the relation of operating expenses incurred by the organization to the net revenue generated in the year. In 2021, for every $1 in net revenue earned by the organization, the cost to generate this revenue was 76.78 cents. In 2020, it cost the organization 75.28 cents to generate $1 in revenue. The slightly weaker result in 2021 was driven by the fact that total net revenue prior to member distributions decreased by $0.9 million or 1%, while total operating expenses increased by $0.7 million or 1%. As expense growth outpaced net revenue growth, the efficiency ratio worsened slightly in 2021. And as Dan mentioned too, the capital base of the organization is very, very important to us. And again, to ensure the credit union is well positioned for the future, that appropriate level of capital is required. So your board of directors and management conducts a rigorous process to determine the targeted level of capital required based on various risks faced by the organization. This is an ongoing process which drives our targeted capital levels. In 2021, total regulatory capital increased by $10.5 million to just over $290 million. This represents year-over-year growth of 3.7%. The adequacy of the capital base is measured using 4 key ratios. As at the end of 2021, Innovation's capital base exceeded not only regulatory requirements, but also internal policy targets. And last slide for me. And again, this is a really exciting one in that we're once again, very happy with the results of our annual review with DBRS Morningstar. DBRS Morningstar is the world's 4th largest credit rating agency and a market leader in Canada, the US, and Europe in multiple asset classes. More than 3,000 issuers and 60,000 securities worldwide are rated by the organization. In April of this year, we completed our 6th annual ratings process, dating back to 2017. Throughout this entire period, Innovation's short-term rating has remained R1 low, which is an excellent result for our members' credit union. By definition, a rating of R1 low indicates, quote, good credit quality. The capacity for payment of short-term financial obligations as they fall due is substantial, end quote. So in conclusion, once again, I thank you for the opportunity to present the financial results of our credit union. And with that, Mr. Chair, I conclude my report.
Thanks, Sheldon, and thanks, Dan. I'll now invite Ian Hamilton, a member of our Audit and Conduct Review Committee, to address the meeting on behalf of the committee and to put forward the motion to appoint our auditors for 2022. Ian?
Yes, thank you, Russ. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Kerry Carson of Deloitte for joining our meeting this evening. Kerry's available online. If there is any questions relating to the audited financial statements, I would encourage you that if you have any questions for the auditor, we would be happy to take them at any time during the course of the meeting. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to thank the firm Deloitte for their services in 2021. We would especially like to thank Kerry Carson and Josh Litzko, who led the Innovation Credit Union audit process. It done a great job for us and for the members. With that, I move that Innovation Credit Union appoint Deloitte as the auditors for the year 2022. And it's back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Ian. And so we have a mover for that, and I'd look for a seconder. So could I get a seconder for that motion, please?
Rosalie Payne, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion related to that motion? If there's no discussion, then I would call for the vote. And so you can vote now. And we'll wait for the results of that vote.
Mr. Chair, that vote is carried.
And that's carried. Thank you. And so We'll now take time to answer any member questions on any of the reports. You may submit your questions via the chat function or address the meeting through your electronic medium. Please ensure you're stating your name when addressing the meeting, either in the chat function or when speaking. I'm going to ask Ian MacArthur if you just monitor the questions, and we'll take any of your questions right now.
I'll do so, Mr. Chair, or anybody can put up their using the put up hand function as well under reactions.
So we'll just give another moment for any questions.
Mr. Johnson, I'm not sure if you had a further question regarding the dividend question, if there's anything for clarification there. I'm just unsure of the exact question you had posted earlier.
Yeah, so I can start out responding to that one. So Phil asked, so do we all get 32.62 in dividends? I'm thinking that is math around the 1.9 that was provided in dividends relative to the entire membership. We don't do a straightforward calculation like that. The amount of dividends that goes back to our members is dependent on the level of business the member does with the organization. And we have a calculation both on the I guess value or the amount of loans you have with the credit union, the amount of deposits. And I thought I'd toss that over to Sheldon to provide a little bit more detail. Sheldon.
Yes, thanks. Dan outlined it very well. So the individual member contribution or participation amount will vary based on their use of Innovation's business and products. So as Dan mentioned, in order for us to ensure that there's a fair distribution to members, it is based off of the level of interest that the member has received on deposits held with Innovation for the quarter that the dividend is being paid out, and also the amount of loan interest paid by the member during that quarter as well. So basically, the more business members do with us, the higher their proportionate take or share of the total distributions that are authorized by the member or by the board of directors. In addition to that, we do pay cash dividends on the member share values that are held in your member reward account. And that dividend is based off a very attractive yield that ensures that our members are provided value for their at-risk capital being held in their credit union. So thank you for the question.
Any other questions?
At this point, Mr. Chair, I do not see any other questions or anyone who wishes to address the meeting. There will be one more opportunity prior to adjournment.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you for the question. And so we'll carry on with our reports and the approval of our reports. So I'll ask for a motion to adopt the Board of Directors and Operations reports, including the financial statements. Do I have a mover? So looking for a mover for the reports.
Laurie Carrier, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Liam Chu-Fu, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And so with the mover and a seconder, I'd now open it up for any discussion. Hearing no questions or discussion, I'd open it up now for the vote. So vote to approve and adopt the Board of Directors and Operation reports. You can vote now.
Chair, that is carried.
Okay, it's carried. Thank you very much. So I'd like to now call upon Karen Yurko, the returning officer and committee member of our Corporate Governance and People Committee, to give a report to the membership. Karen?
Thank you, Russ. It's my pleasure this evening to present the returning officers report. The Board of Directors, through the Corporate Governance and People Committee, conducted our board election process. Our first meeting was held on December 8th, 2021. And at that time, we reviewed the board nomination kit, the nomination form, and the timelines for the election process. So the candidates from District 1 with expiring terms were Joan Bear, Michelle Wild, and myself, Karen Yurko, and from District 2, Gord Lightfoot. The call for nominations was advertised through local newspapers, as well as social media delivery channels and within our advice centers. Our meeting was held on February 28th, and at that time, the nomination papers that we received were opened and reviewed to ensure that all eligibility requirements were met. And the following candidates were nominated to the Board of Directors. In District 1, Joan Bear, Brian Gilliman, and Michelle Wild. And in District 2, Karen McBride. So due to all vacant positions being filled by acclamation, no election was required. And on March 23rd, 2022, the committee met and acclaimed all the nominees as elected. So please join me virtually in congratulating our incumbents, Joan Bear and Michelle Wild, back to the board, and welcome Karen McBride and Brian Gilliman to the Board of Directors for Innovation Credit Union. And with that, Mr. Chair, it concludes my report. I would move to accept the returning officer report as presented.
Thanks, Karen. So I'd be looking for a seconder for the acceptance of that report and for the election of those individuals to the Board of Innovation Credit Union. And can I get a seconder, please?
Bruce Sack, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion? And so with no discussion, I'll turn that to a vote. And so if you would vote now, please. We'll just wait for the results of that vote.
It's carried.
And so that's carried. Thank you. At this time, we would like to thank Gord Lightfoot and Karen Yurko for their combined 64 years of service to the credit union system. Gord Lightfoot since 1981 and Karen since 1999. And included in their service, there were several years as chairs of the board and of committees and of system representation. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your service. We're also very pleased to share that at the Sask Central annual meeting held on April 14th, Karen and Gord, along with former directors Gwen Humphrey and Jerome Brew, were formally recognized for their contributions to the Saskatchewan credit union system by receiving the Director of Merit Award. We congratulate all three for this well-deserved recognition. Thank you. So we'll move to one of the final items on our agenda, and an important item that is an essential part of our organization's purpose is reinvesting profits into our members, our communities, and our people. Here at Innovation Credit Union, we strive to define community by helping underserved Canadians, people that face societal barriers, challenges, and disparities, achieve equal opportunities. And tonight, we'd like to draw attention to the incredible work of the Airlo Sport Venture. To see the impact and difference for yourself, here's a short video highlighting the work at Airlo Sport Venture.
Airlo Sport Venture is one of Ranch Airlo's community outreach programs that aims to provide vulnerable youth and families with access to sport and recreation. Founded in 1992 with the introduction of the Outdoor Hockey League, Sport Venture has grown to include 5 barrier-free community programs that include baseball, hockey, basketball, soccer, and football. We also operate a lending library that stocks a variety of sports equipment that can be borrowed to the public free of charge. Sport Venture believes that through the power of sport, we can empower youth facing barriers or challenges. Our players are supported as they build courage and confidence, enhance their life and social skills, and tap into their unlimited potential. We believe that every child, no matter their life circumstance or skill level, has the right to play in safe spaces where they find belonging and are free to take risks and have fun. Sport Venture players and families come together through recreation to learn, grow, strengthen, and support one another and their communities. We value each of the relationships that are fostered and honor the process of growth as it's discovered through opportunity. Sport Venture seeks to provide not only access to sport, but leverages the playing field for all vulnerable youth.
Well, at this time, we would like to support AirLo in their efforts to provide quality programming at no cost and expand the reach for more children and youth to engage in sport by presenting them with a $5,000 donation. Thank you for all that you do for our youth and for our communities, and keep up this important work. We're coming to the close of our agenda, and one of the last items that we had on our agenda was other business. And so I just ask if there is any further business to come before the meeting. Is there any further business that members would like to discuss this evening? Well, hearing no other business, just to remind you that if there were any questions that you had that come to mind, please reach out to either Dan or to myself. Our email addresses will be on the final slide, or our telephone numbers. Please reach out to us and we will make sure that we get back to you. And I'll just call one more time for any other questions or any other business. And so with
None, Mr.
that,
Chair.
seeing none, I'd like to thank you for attending tonight's AGM, and I would call for a motion to adjourn. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And so thanks again for attending tonight's AGM and for your ongoing business and your support of your credit union, Innovation Credit Union. We'd also like to thank our technology staff, thank our leadership team for their participation in our annual meeting tonight, and everyone else who assisted in making our AGM a success. Just ask you to stay safe and stay healthy, and thank you again for your participation in our meeting. Thanks for attending and have a wonderful evening.